Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Posey?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here. We would all stand, marching invocation and Mr. Posey the pledge.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for giving us such a beautiful Mother's Day, a time to remember our mothers who are no longer with us, and a time to celebrate the ones who are. We are grateful for such precious family moments. As we celebrate this week, the 50th anniversary of this great city, we ask your continued blessing upon its citizens, leaders, and employees. We place in your care today all who are in need of prayer, especially the family of Alex Baker. May your peace be upon them in the days ahead. We pray for all leaders and elected officials, especially this mayor and council, in their service to this city. And may the next 50 years be even greater than the first. In your name we pray. Amen.
Just an announcement real quick. For those of you who do not know, a fairly prominent Hoover citizen, his wife was a member of the school board. Alex Baker passed away yesterday. I've just been given that his visitation will be at River Chase United Methodist Thursday from 5 to 7, and the funeral will be Friday at 2 p.m. Determined at Southern Heritage. If any of you want to. With that, I'll accept a motion on the minutes.
President, move minutes be approved without reading. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments? Council? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay, the ayes have it. Going to the report section, Mayor, do you have some employee recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Smith, I appreciate it. Special part of our meeting each month is to recognize some of our outstanding employees that have reached a milestone. And tonight we want to first ask up Mary Ann Cohen. Mary Ann started in 1987 with the library. She started part-time. She loved it so much that in 2001 she decided to do it full-time. And she's been a library specialist now and does a wonderful job and loves our library, and just the folks that see her love her as well. So grateful for all that she's done. So thank you very much.
Mayor, can I just point out, everyone that goes into the Hoover Library, whenever you go into the children's department and you see the fantastic displays that they produce, you can thank that lady right there, Miss Mary Ann. She's a wonderful asset to the city.
And Darren Majors. Darren has been with Public Works since 1987. Started out as a skilled laborer and then worked his way up to heavy equipment operator and became equipment operator, senior equipment operator. And I can never not talk about Public Works and not mention them as really part of our public safety and what they mean to us and what they do for us. And we're certainly grateful for the time that you've given us in the city of Hoover and all you've done. Thank you very much. those were 30 years service pins, by the way, and 25 years. Dee Nance, Dee, come up. Everyone knows Dee. She's been here since 92. She's a recreation therapist, senior activities director, and became a parks and recreation manager in 2009. Just a delightful individual to work for. She'll never tell you what's on her mind. She just keeps it right to herself. And it's just a privilege. We're working on a project right now, and I appreciate all that she's done. It's something that the city will be very proud of, and she's really in charge of it. So thank you for your 25 years of service. And I think that your dad Bruno here?
Yes. And my husband.
And Ricky? Yeah, I'll stand. Hello, Bruno. Good to see you again. Yeah. And then Dana Stewart. Dana, hired in 1992 as a clerk typist, and she was promoted to administrative clerk in 94, then recreation program superintendent in 99, then became the senior center operations supervisor in 2009, and promoted to park and recreation manager in 2017. And just does a wonderful job at our senior center, taking care of all of those wonderful citizens that enjoy going there each day, and the programs are wonderful. If you've not been to some of the dances that they give, they're lots of fun, you know, and she's responsible for that, but a very important part of our city, taking care of our senior citizens, and we sure do enjoy that, and thank you for everything that you've done.
All right, next we have a proclamation for the Hoover 50th anniversary. Danielson? Mr. Rice, can you read this? That's asking a lot, especially. I belong there.
Everyone knows, I've never done this, Mr. G. Mr. GQ is in G.
All right, settle in. We've had a long and distinguished history. Whereas the city of Hoover was incorporated on May 18, 1967, with 406 residents and 4 square blocks, and has grown to encompass an area of more than 50 square miles. And whereas almost 85,000 people now call Hoover home, and it is now the 6th largest city in the state of Alabama. And whereas Hoover is named for William Henry Hoover, a one-time Bessemer pharmacist and insurance company executive, who bought land along U.S. Highway 31 in 1953 with a vision of growing the area into a city. And whereas Hoover is rich in heritage, beginning with human habitation approximately 10,000 years ago along the Hoover River in the vicinity of Chase Lake, based upon the age of Indian projectile points discovered in the area. And whereas the first pioneer settlement in the area was established by the Patton family in the 1850s in the vicinity of the Hoover First United Methodist Church on Patton Chapel Road. And whereas a railroad bridge over Ross Creek near the Ross Bridge community was constructed in the mid-1800s during the Civil War on the land of James Taylor Ross to allow the transport of men and supplies to Selma, Alabama by rail. And whereas the area's earliest known church was Rocky Ridge Cumberland Presbyterian Church, which began with 11 charter members who held their first service in 1853 in a brush arbor and completed their first sanctuary in 1854. And whereas construction began in the mid to late 1800s on the South and North Railroad cut at Brock's Gap to develop coal and iron industries in Jefferson County through the carrying of pig iron from blast furnaces, and the cut was heralded as the deepest railroad cut in the world at the time. And whereas Bluff Park, a large neighborhood on the brow of Shays Mountain, was established in the 19th century as a resort, with visitors seeking water from the area's many springs. And whereas Hoover's first city hall was built in 1971 on land donated by the city's namesake, William Hoover. And whereas the Hoover Volunteer Fire Department, which began in 1962 and charged an annual homeowner fee of $10, purchased the area's first fire truck from the city of Birmingham, housed it in the carport of a home on Star Lake Drive, and had its first real fire station, a shed in the rear of Employers Insurance Company building. And whereas in 1986, the Hoover City Council established a city school system, notwithstanding the fact that a referendum for a city school system held on December 4th, 1986 had not passed by a slim margin of 3,359 to 3,302. And whereas Hoover's growth can be attributed to numerous geographic and economic factors, including its location near both Interstate 65 and 459, and the opening in 1986 of the River Chase Galleria, the largest mall in the Southeast. And whereas the Hoover Metropolitan Stadium has been the home of the Southeastern Conference baseball tournament for 20 consecutive years, with a week-long tournament bringing the SEC's top teams to Hoover. And whereas Aldrich Gardens, the home of Hoover's first official flower, the snowflake hydrangea, is one of the few botanical gardens that specializes in hydrangeas and was once the home of Eddie and Kay Aldrich, who lived there for many years before conveying the land to Hoover as a park. And whereas the Moss Rock Preserve, a 349-acre public park, is home to 4 rare species of plants and a rare variant of Little River Canyon sandstone glade, thought to be one of only 35 known occurrences. And whereas, in honor of Hoover's 50th anniversary, the city has created a time capsule of items to be opened in 2067. Now, therefore, I, Frank P. Mercado, Mayor of the City of Hoover, Alabama, and all members of the City Council do hereby proclaim the date of May 18, 2017 as the 50th anniversary of the City of Hoover, and encourage all citizens to join with us in recognizing how far our city has come since its founding and how our city continues to build community together each day for future generations to come.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
One thing that the proclamation negated, Mayor, was when the volunteer fire department did have a fire station, first police officer, Oscar Davis, anytime he made an arrest, he would handcuff him to the water heater at the fire station, so the county would come pick him up. Mayor, do you have anything else?
Oh, I think the next thing on the agenda, I was just going to say something. 6.
Mr. Mayor, before we begin,
We've got a couple of other items, if you don't mind. Mr. Casey, or Dr. Middlebrooks, first, if we could recognize Mr. David Barber, here representing Prescott House.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mayor. I appreciate the 30-year award. Gives me a segue into what I wanted to mention. I'd be remiss if I didn't come by here and thank you all on behalf of Prescott House for the continued financial support that this city has shown us. It's hard to believe we've been there now for 30 years, and it's only through continued help of the municipalities that we serve that we can continue to do what we do for children who find themselves in a situation that and I can only imagine. And we are observing our 30th anniversary this year, and if you have not already received an invitation for an event on June 15th, you should have one soon. And I hope you will join us. Thank you again for your continued support, personally and on behalf of a lot of children that you're helping that you will never get to see, but believe me, you're making a difference in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of you don't recall, or are too young to recall, Mr. Barber was Jefferson County District Attorney for about 40 years? 24? And never got in trouble. Amazing. Mr. Case, Dr. Case.
Mr. President, I'd like to reconsider ordinance number 17-2331, annexation of 5410 Highway 280, American Family Care property from last week, from the last council meeting.
I assume you're doing so having voting in the affirmative?
Yes, sir. It was a unanimous decision in the affirmative.
All right. We have a second. Second. We have a motion and a second. This is kind of a short track. American Family Care had come to us, and at our last meeting, we voted to annex them into Hoover. Since then, they have stated their regretment and do not want to be in Hoover, and to try to shorten it, rather than having to go through about 6 weeks of time, I spoke with the city attorneys, and we felt this was the best way to handle this. So if there's any questions from the council, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Now this is for the reconsideration. This is the vote for the reconsideration. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Now, I'm open to a motion as to what we want to do with this property.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of the annexation. Remind my colleagues that a nay vote would deny the annexation.
I'm sorry?
So, but a nay vote would deny the annexation, which I believe is the end result that Dr. Irwin's asking.
Okay, yet, make a motion that a yes vote would be to deny the,
The item we're considering is for annexation, so I move to approve. But just remind my colleagues that a nay vote would meet Dr. Irwin's wishes.
does that meet your approval, Madam Attorney?
Yes, just to make sure.
All right, very good.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it.
Nay.
Okay,
I just explained that a nay vote
now,
would deny the annexation, which is what we want to do.
in favor of approving. Okay, we're gonna do this again. This doesn't happen very often. I learned this watching in Montgomery. All right, so a yes vote is in favor, a nay vote is not to annex.
Correct.
All right,
Mr. President, should this be a roll call vote?
please, sir. Whoever made the motion. If you would change it to include the roll call.
Yeah, I would move for a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Nay, I think.
Mr. Minor?
Nay.
Nay.
Mr. Murphy?
Nay.
Mr. Posey?
Nay.
Mr. Shaw?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Nay. All right, I think we got it right this time. The annexation will not proceed, which, one thing it does is it saves us some cost of advertising. There are some dollars saved by this. All right. Next, I want to recognize, is there a Noah Williamson here?
Yes,
Would you please stand? I understand you were Boy Scout Troop 23.
Yes, sir.
Tell us what merit badge you're working on.
Communications, sir.
And what's your current rank?
Star Scout.
Very good, very good. Well, we thank you for being here, and I think you wanted some good information, you picked the right one. Go to the bathroom now, because we won't have time revised and reconsidered. Go to item 6, resolution 5573-17. Ms. Daniels.
Yes, this resolution authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement with the Alabama Sports Council to host the SEC baseball tournament for a 3-year period and 2 additional 1-year options to exit.
All right, I'll accept a motion so we can have some conversation.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5573-17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All right, first questions and comments from the council. Mayor, maybe before we start any of that, do you have a few things you want to say?
Well, I just wanted to commend Mr. Rice on his extremely hard work over the weekend and just the spirit of cooperation between Gene Hallman and the Alabama Sports Council to continue to have the SEC tournament here in Hoover, Alabama, where it's really, we consider it the home of the SEC tournament. And just to let each of you know that there was a great deal of work that went on this past, it's been going on quite a while, but particularly this past weekend. And it's, I'm just pleased at how the cooperation between the city of Hoover, Southeastern Conference, Gene Hallman, and the Alabama Sports Council. Certainly we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have regarding this as well.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rice, if maybe you could highlight the changes from the last copy we were given to this evening.
Mr. President, the majority of the changes had to do with cost considerations as the tournament has grown and prospered over the years, 20 years, as we heard in the proclamation. We wanted to continue to offer what we consider to be a first-class experience. We're extremely fortunate this year to have the Finley Center come online, and I think most of you are aware we have our second agenda item deals with the fan experience, or the Fan Fest experience that will now be created. We believe this is going to rival what you experience when you go to Atlanta for the SEC football championship. This was a request of the conference, and we worked mutually, as the mayor mentioned, with all affected parties to make sure that when people come to Hoover, they not only see this magnificent new Finley Center, which is totally new since the last tournament, but when they go inside that center, they have an experience that's second to none. So they'll have fantastic baseball inside the Met, and they'll have a fan experience inside the Finley. With that type of prosperity and growth comes a lot of new moving parts, a lot of additional staffing, a lot of new costs. And so we work very diligently back and forth in a spirit of cooperation to be sure that that's all shared equitably among the partners. And I just want to echo what the mayor said. The conference and the Alabama Sports Council and Mr. Hallman, who is our negotiating partner, have all stepped forward and have shown good faith and have helped the city with the expansion to make sure that we all have a phenomenal event over the next week, starting on Tuesday of next week.
All right, any questions from the council?
Mr. President, I'm on page 12 now of the contract, reading through it. The option for the last 2 years, I know there's some things in here that we have to meet to get to that option. At what point in time will those 2 years be considered? When we satisfy the request of us, or will it be considered the end of the 3 years? I mean, what timetable are we looking forward for those last 2 years?
Mr. Posey, I think that's at the behest of the conference. I think certainly the Sports Council and the city would like for those to be exercised as soon as the 2017 tournament closes. And so we'll be approaching the conference at the earliest opportunity to receive their feedback and see what kind of path we're on. They could exercise the option to wait until the completion of the initial 3 years, or they could decide to do it at any point in time between now and that point in 2019. We're going to be eagerly pursuing early renewals, and we think again that the quality of the experience will be such that they don't want to leave.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. Rice, do you want to elaborate anything on the fanfare experience, or we just going to let everybody be surprised? Maybe it bears with.
The marketers in the crowd would say, don't tell them. But there's gonna be a very exciting Ferris wheel opportunity outside the Finley Center, which is gonna be positioned to give great views down into the stadium. And we think people are really gonna enjoy that. There's gonna be an indoor zip line, ESPN broadcasting live from a venue there inside the Finley Center. Full-service sports bar that'll be open throughout the entire tournament, so breaks in between games or your favorite team's not on the field, you have the opportunity to just take that covered connection from the Met over to the Finley Center and have a full-service restaurant inside the Finley Center. So a lot of exciting things.
And music gonna be played near the Ferris wheel.
I don't know. We're gonna have music and we're gonna have a Ferris wheel. The proximity of those two, I'm not sure. We will have some live music throughout the tournament.
Just, everybody can be surprised when they find out who used to own the Ferris wheel. Any other, conversation from the council, any from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay, the ayes have it. Resolution 5574-17, Ms. Daniels.
Yes, this resolution authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement with the Classic for the management and production of SBC baseball game festival that will be held as part of the SBC.
These are items on the agenda, pull the microphone, just a little bit closer, like right up to you. Any questions from the council?
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5574-17.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any conversation from the council? Questions or comments? Is this Dr. Lopez question dealing with funding, or is this,
I can take it.
these budgeted funds?
They're budgeted funds from our events budget.
All right, very good. So it's not something coming in. All right, anything else from the council? Any from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay, the ayes have it. Item 5575-17, Ms. Daniels.
This resolution actually amends resolution number 5469-16, which found that certain public events promote the city's health, safety, and welfare, and also serve a sufficient public purpose. This resolution adds the city's 50th anniversary celebration to the list of events listed in Exhibit A to the resolution.
Ms. Rice, maybe more detail on those events?
Yes, sir. As Ms. Anderson mentioned, it's necessary to have a resolution, finding a public purpose before we expend public dollars. And so we wanted to be sure that we added in our 50th anniversary celebrations and the opening of the Finley Center to that list that was in the previous resolution. These are things that will provide refreshments, birthday cake, and lots of things to the public when they participate in these. We know which side of the line we want to be on from the standpoint of the Alabama Ethics Commission, and we thought in an abundance of caution, we should add these to that list.
This is going to include neighborhood celebrations in some areas.
Will, I think Ms. Caldwell's here, I think we have 10. Oh, thank you. 10, do you want to speak for just a second about, yeah, let the expert tell you about the celebration.
She appreciates it, I'm sure. Name and address, please.
So as we came up with ideas to celebrate our 50th anniversary this year, one of the ideas was to have parties in our communities as we're striving to build community together. So as part of that, we thought we could have many birthday, anniversary, celebration parties, bring cake, lemonade, some drinks out for mayor, council to come and visit with the residents and celebrate together our 50 years.
While you're up here, you want to say anything about the time capsule?
Yes, we'll be celebrating, continuing to celebrate. We've got lots of things on our agenda for this 50th anniversary, but since the city was incorporated on May 18th, we are going to be burying a time capsule out here in the City Hall lobby at 10 o'clock on Thursday.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Ms. Cobal? Any questions for Mr. Rice? Any from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Keep getting ahead of things.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 7517.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Once again, no comments or questions from anyone in the room. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Guess I'm just trying to get in too big a hurry to get to the fun part tonight. Resolution 5576-17, Ms. Daniels.
This resolution also authorizes the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with Lawler.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 557617.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any conversation? Is there anybody here from the Lawler group tonight? No? Okay. Any questions from the audience? Nothing from the council. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Item 5577-17, authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with Native Inc.
Mr. President, I move for resolution number 5577-17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Danielson, if you would, please deal with the resolution.
This resolution, authorizes the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with Native Marketing and Strategy Inc. concerning the city's Blue Love Shop, Hoover initiative.
All right, is the gentleman Native Inc. here tonight?
Yes, sir.
All right, you have a presentation?
I do, if you guys have time to see.
But we'll make time. Need to turn the lights down a little bit.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start. Thank you, council and Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you guys giving me the time today. My name is Jordan Dufexis, and I'm with Native Inc. I know everyone's not here to see me, so I'll go ahead and jump right in. It's a scary time for retailers. I look at this picture here and I realize that Hoover's really built on retail. So what we're seeing is American staples like Sears, JCPenney, Radio Shack, they're closing their doors now. You got, for the first time since 1977, more small businesses closing than opening. And there's a major problem there. And what it comes down to is these businesses don't have the technology necessary to compete in 2017. You got small businesses trying to keep up with the big guy. The big guys using traditional methods, and and they're all played by Amazon's rules, and they're not there. So what we did was we went back and we really rewrote the rule book for brick and mortar. So just to give you an idea of what we do, our mission is to strengthen communities through technology while maximizing revenue of local business. And so using our app with the City of Hoover and the Economic Initiative, will make Hoover an enterprise unto itself. So through that, I'll show you a quick update of the app and how that's used. So this is the update feed. I'm kind of an awkward angle here. So this update feed here, this is the home screen. This will allow people to, merchants you're following, this is where they post products, they post events, new deals, service agreements, things like that. And the great thing about that is Facebook's algorithm is 1%. So meaning if someone in your that likes your Facebook page as a business, you post something, only 1%. Thank you. Here we go. Hear me? Much better. Thank you. Thank you. So 1% of that on algorithms. You've got the rate this button here, and what that does is if you're following a business here, It allows you to rate yes or no, if you like whatever they're posting. Now, no one else will get to see that rating except the merchant themselves. And what that does is that gives that merchant immediate feedback on the products and services that they're showing and advertising to the people that actually shop with and follow them. Now, down here, this is the nearby tab. So what it does, it takes your GPS and all the merchants in Hoover that are on this. It puts them down there if you're not following them, and it just basically what it does, it gives you an idea of what's going on around you, even if you're not aware of that local business in the area. Now, being able to follow that business allows you to rate and give feedback. So that's really the reasoning behind these two words here. And this is the browse and search section. So what you'll do is you'll pick what you want to do in Hoover, and it's broken down into 4 categories: eat, shop, play, and live. Eat's obviously a restaurant. Shop's going to be any type of retail. Play will be any type of recreation, and then you've got live, which would be perform under professional services. It breaks it down by the closest to around you, and then once you get into that, you can search even farther and really more specific on what you want to do in any of those areas right there. Any type of products, any type of events, you'll be able to search that. This is a quick look at the merchant profile. It gives you an idea of what that merchant offers you, hours, how many people are following them, address, a quick description of what they do. This shows their updates. You'll just kind of thumb through that very, very quickly to see what they're offering. Down here are their coupons. So if you're curious what a merchant's offering, you can go to their profile and you'll see all their deals in one spot right there. This is the deals page, and this is really great. So what we look at here is there's 4 categories on the deals, and you'll start to unlock, and that's what's up top. So if you've saved a coupon on our app, it puts it at the top of the screen, because basically if you've saved it, it means you want to use it. So we want you to be able to get to that pretty quickly. Then under that, you'll see what's hot. So that's the 10 most popular coupons on the app in Hoover at the time. So if something's going really quickly, in the retail industry there, you'll see what it has to offer, and you don't want to miss out on that. The third version will be new. You just keep kind of scrolling down the page. That category will be there under new. What that means is any coupon that's been added in the last 7 days will be in that new category. And in the very bottom will be all, and that basically follows into everything that's not on that list, and basically, just all your coupons that haven't been put into one of these categories are there. So they'll remain there until you've used them or they expire. So the way to use our app is you click this little QR code. Well, different screens up, but there's a QR code right here, and it's just a check-in. And when you go to one of the merchants involved in this app, it uses your camera from your smartphone, pulls it up, and we've got these that'll sit by the register or on a table in a restaurant. Simply hold your camera over that phone, and it checks you in. Now, what a check-in does is it enters you into our weekly giveaway. So the more you shop locally, the more you check in, the more chances you have to win that week's giveaway. So, talking about our giveaway, we call that the Native Fortune. And the beauty of the Native Fortune for local businesses is when you win those drawings every Friday from us, we give you native bucks. Now, those native bucks aren't cash. They are, they look a little bit like Monopoly money. But what it does is it gives you gift certificates that have to be spent back at native merchants. So back with the local merchants that are on the app here. Just to give you an idea, show you if what we put together actually works. We're based out of Fort Payne, Alabama. March 15th, 2016, we launched our beta version of this app in Fort Payne. Now, in that time, we've awarded over $13,000 in Fort Payne, Alabama. So that's a year, 13 grand. You look at a population like Fort Payne, you're talking 14,000 people. You got 50 merchants approximately on the app. 3,500 users in Fort Payne, Alabama have downloaded this app. And what we're doing is we're changing shopping habits from Amazon and online retail into people actually using our app to get back into brick and mortar and invest back in their community. You look at our breakdown of what we've been able to do. Amazon's average user is 36.5, Walmart 50, Target 45. Our average user is younger than Amazon's, and that's going to brick and mortar in local stores in Fort Payne, Alabama. Real results that we've been able to produce for the last year in our hometown. So just really quickly what the app does and why we want to be part of this economic initiative with the city here. It's going to increase sales tax revenue because it's going to cause people to stop buying online and start buying more because they know what's around them and they're getting better deals and they're getting rewarded for buying around them. It's going to improve the business climate because it goes hand in hand with one. It's also going to increase morale for those merchants. Just based on just the process. The app is actually can be used as a recruiting tool to bring in new business. So, you know, you look one day, you've got 20,000 people on the app here in Hoover, and you've got a business wanting to come in. You know what kind of market segments there are, and who's you know, who's missing out based on the information we provide. And you can say, you know, I'm not going to offer you a tax incentive to move to Hoover, but I'll give you an app, and you have access to 20,000 people that actually shop and spend their money in Hoover, Alabama, and that's far more valuable to any prospective business coming in than any type of tax incentive or anything like that. And then we want to make Hoover the model for the country. This is, you know, it's a little strange us being up here and saying, you know, a bunch of kids from Sand Mountain figured out how to take down Amazon, but that's you know, that's what we're doing here. And so we want to use Hoover. It's perfect for this. You guys are heavy on retail. You've got a lot of pride in your community. The shop local actually means something here. And that's why Hoover is the perfect place for us to work with the city and kick this off here. And in addition to this, what we want to do as far as, other than working with the city to push this app and help your local businesses, we want to work with the Chamber of Commerce. We want to give anyone that's a Chamber of Commerce member a 20% discount to join our app. Now that's no strings attached to the Chamber. We just want to provide that where the Chamber can use that as a recruiting tool to bring in more merchants to sign in and help strengthen what they do here in Hoover. And the second thing, and this is a big one for me, every time the app is used in the city of Hoover, we're going to give the Hoover City Schools Foundation a donation every single time. So, you know, it's one of those things where every time somebody shops locally in Hoover, not only are they, you know, helping themselves because they're getting the best deals and they're getting entered through our weekly giveaway, but at the same time, we're giving a donation to the city school system itself, who's done a lot of great work here in Hoover in a short period of time. So that's kind of a summary of what we're doing. Kind of an idea of how our app works. I know a lot of the council here has seen this presentation, so I hate to push through it again, but I appreciate you giving me the time. And the main thing is what separates us at Native is we work very hard to put the consumer first, and as far as I know, we're the only group out there that does that while being all about community and tying everyone together at the same time. So that's really all I have. I just wanted to quickly run through the benefits for the shoppers of Hoover and how that'll help the local business and how we're going to work with the community when we're here. So if you guys have any questions, you know, obviously feel free.
First, we'll open it up to questions from the council.
Mr. President, I have a couple questions. The first one is, in your review, it was a 2 one-year periods. Now, when we talked about this before, were we not agreeing to do our service agreements yearly with a presentation to do a 1-year period? On all service agreements. Is that true? This is not a service agreement, it's a contract. Okay. So this is separate from that.
President, I think since this copy just came at 3 o'clock today, right? Okay, yeah, I just kind of glanced through it. It's pretty short, so it's pretty straightforward. But I think there might be a little confusion as to what was before what we're actually looking at right now. So did somebody explain the difference of what we looked at?
Previously, I did not see your earlier presentation, but at that point, there's going to be a $20,000 investment for the city. I understand that has gone away.
Yes, sir. We've actually removed that from the table. We're not requesting any money for the city for this initiative. We just want to work with the city and the foundation and the Chamber of Commerce to promote community and business here in Hoover. So there's no financial ties here in this, or obligations here in this
How much
agreement.
is it for a business to join your service?
So the price point is something we're very proud of. The small mom and pop business, the guy we want to take care of first, actually is the whole reason we started Native, was to give those people the tools that they don't have or can't afford, is $49 a month. That's it. You know, it goes up from there, obviously, depending on the size of your business and the amount of work we do with them. But a local business here in Hoover would pay $49 a month membership to be part of this.
Okay. I know Dr. Megbrooks brought you all to the table, and I thank him for that, as well as his slogan. At this point, if there's not going to be any city money involved, why do you need to partner with the city?
Well, that's the reason we want to partner with the city is because we're doing this a different way. This is, everyone's tried to figure out Amazon and they've failed. The important part is that everyone's involved in this initiative, everyone's on board. Whether it be the city school system, the Education Foundation, the Chamber of Commerce, the council and mayor itself, the administration, the city. It's going to take everyone in this to create a healthy business climate moving forward, and we want everyone to be on the same page, and that's why, you know, we withdrew our request for any type of marketing funds, and we just really want this to be a you know, just a partnership to build business in Hoover with you guys.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I think it's important to note that I brought them in here after researching many different companies nationwide, and this is a city initiative to promote businesses within Hoover, to give them a leg up and combat some of this e-commerce that's taken away revenue from the city. Just today, some of the research I was doing provided by Dr. Lopez, just to give you an illustration, $1 million in sales here in Hoover at a brick and mortar store. If you take our 3% local levy tax, that's $30,000 coming to the city, which in turn helps fund our police, our fire, all our public safety, our schools and public works, everything that we enjoy, a high standard of living here in the city. That same tax levy through e-commerce, through Amazon, $1 million in Amazon sales in the state of Alabama. The city of Hoover gets $358. So $358 compared to $30,000. This is an initiative that I brought forward to help our local businesses out.
Dr. Middlebrooks, I appreciate you saying that. I'd like to say to my wife Pam, who's watching at home, to listen to what he said. Now I'll be sleeping in a hotel facility. Any other questions from the council? Any from the audience? Hearing none. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Congratulations. I have been remiss that we have another special guest here, Mr. Al Fulcher with Red Mountain Park. Please come down, sir.
I'm Al Fulcher, I'm the interim director out of Red Mountain Park, and this is Katie Bradford, who is in charge of our community relations, and Casey Moore, who is doing our public relations. I'm going to turn it over to Katie.
Hey there, thank you for having us. I'll just take one moment to say thank you for the contribution that Red Mountain Park has received. We're promised to use that contribution to continue to do the work that we're doing at Red Mountain Park. We are 1,500 acres located off of West Lakeshore Parkway. Many of the citizens in Bluff Park and Ross Bridge are often at Red Mountain Park, but we serve a really wide community, and we do a lot of great things out there. Everything from zip lining to Alabama's largest dog park, 15 miles of hiking and mountain biking trails, and a tremendous history there. So we just want to thank you, and then we want to invite everyone here who hasn't been to Red Mountain Park to come to Red Mountain Park. And if you have been to the park, we'd just like to ask that you tell others about us. Thank you.
Mr. Fulcher, if you and your team would come up, I believe the mayor's trying to save 49 cents. Mr. Fulcher, you had a little bit with Hoover's history, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
How many houses do you think that you had a part of in the early days?
Quite a few. Quite a few.
Quite a few.
I had a great time on the park board for
Yeah,
about 8
you,
years.
Herschel Trim,
Yeah,
a lot of good people.
a lot of good people.
Resolution 5578-17, declare properties as public nuisances due to weeds or grass. I'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of Resolution 5578-17.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We have our presenter here tonight. There he is, Mr. Robert Mack. We've missed you all winter.
It's good to be back.
Trees don't grow in the winter. It's not as fast.
Have any questions on it?
Why don't you identify parcels real quick?
Okay, we started with 8 cases, and we're down to 2. One of them at 2004 Yancey Drive, and the other one is at the, sorry.
2228.
Yes, sir,
Talbrook
2228 Talbrook Road. And the one on Talbrook is a vacant house, and backyard is what's really badly overgrown. And then the one on Yancey is a rental house that we've been unable to get the owner. Unfortunately, he uses that as the address. That's all we have on that.
Is the rental house occupied?
Yes, sir, it is occupied. I've spoken with the renter, and they're about to leave.
If you were to borrow some crime scene tape from the police department and put it across the front door, maybe they'd tell you.
That would probably work.
So this is strictly housekeeping, like all the others that we've seen?
Yes, sir. First hearing on both of these, both of them are pretty straightforward.
All right, maybe because we haven't had many with several members of the council, maybe you could identify what the following steps are, unless they alleviate the problem themselves.
Yes, tonight would be declared a public nuisance, and then we have 21 days where the city clerk will notify everybody that's had any kind of ownership. We put it in the newspaper, and then we'll post a sign, and then we'll be back to the council again for abatement. So,
All right. Any questions from the council?
Just Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Talbrook Road, is there a house that's vacant? Is it foreclosure?
I don't believe so. I have an owner. I don't believe the bank's gotten it, and I've actually in the past spoken with the guy. I think he's just got some financial problems, but he has in the past come through before the city's had to cut it. So
How long has it been vacant? You know?
it's been vacant for a couple of years.
Any other questions? All right, either the property owners happen to be here this evening? Don't see anybody. Any comments or questions from the audience? No? All right, seeing and hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay, the ayes have it. Next is Resolution 5579-17. Ms. Danielson.
Yes, this resolution authorizes the mayor to execute a sanitary sewer access easement with Richard Chase, Country.
Open for a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of Resolution 5579-17.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? Tim, would this be you? Maybe just a real short, 30 seconds.
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith, this is the same access easement that you all approved about 2 months ago. The country club asked us to add a clause into the agreement whereby if we, by our access, damage the path, then we would be responsible for repairing it. And that's the
Cart
change.
path for the golf.
It is a cart path along the golf course.
All right, any other questions from the council? Any from the audience? Got a motion and a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay, the ayes have it. Item 13, we've got resolutions 5580, 81, and 80 and 81, which we can take in unison. Ms. Danielson.
These resolutions inform the Alabama Department of Environment of actions taken by the city concerning, yes, River Chase and the Penn Treatment Wastewater
Mr. President, I move for the approval of resolutions number 5580-17 and 5581-17.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? Still here tonight? I don't see him. Mr. Westover? Still sorry for Dr. Lopez later.
Okay. These, as we discussed Thursday night, are just our annual report cards to ADEM regarding our sanitary sewer wastewater treatment plants. We scored very, very well. Again, this year, our score for River Chase was 16 out of 783. The object being, like golf, to have a low score. And Inverness, we were 30 out of 783, so we were very good. I think Councilman Green asked, what did we score last year? At River Chase, we scored 14, so we went up 16. We got 2 extra points because it was 1 year of age. Last year at Inverness, we actually scored a 33, so our score went down this year. Fortunately, we did not have, we exceeded 1 month our average daily flow last year, and that gave us 5 additional points last year that we did not have this year.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Let me make sure. The motion includes both resolutions 5580 and 81, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay, the ayes have it. Item 14, resolution 5582-17, Mrs. Daniels.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute a community services agreement with the United Way Area Agency on Aging of Jefferson County, administered through the Community Partnership of Alabama in the amount of $7,000 to provide services to the city's senior citizens, and including Meals on Wheels programs.
All right, open for a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5582-17.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay, the ayes have it. Item 15, resolution 5583-17, Mrs. Daniels.
This resolution authorizes the city's back-to-school sales tax holiday, exempting certain items from municipal sales and use tax during the period from 12:01 a.m. on Friday, July 21st, 2017, and ending at 12 midnight on Sunday, July 23rd, 2017.
For a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5583-17.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Mr. Rice, will this information be available on the website? I understand there'll be a link to the items that are available.
Yes, sir, I believe we can have our revenue department compile that list and post it on the city website and share it through Facebook as well.
All right. Very good, thank you. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? How many years, I know it's the staff more than anybody else, how many years has Hoover been participating?
It's, Counselor, it's been since 2006.
2006. Was that the first year that the state
First
authorized?
year the state authorized it, we followed it.
No question from the council, none from the audience. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay, the ayes have it. Item 16, resolution 5584-17, Mr. Daniels.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute an engagement agreement with Porter Light and Company to provide financial advisory services.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5584-17.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? Mr. Rice, perhaps you could go over the type of work that will be accomplished.
And I think Dr. Lopez.
Dr. Lopez, okay, well, I guess you'll we talked about it Thursday, but we have a lot better crowd tonight, so I thought I'd let everybody else know.
Sure. Basically, this is going to be two items on this agreement. The first item is just to evaluate best practices and update our investment policy. It's been probably over 15 years since we've updated it. The second item is a 5-year revenue and expenditure forecast for the general fund and a few other funds that are reliant on transfers for the general fund. And in particular, just looking at kind of what we talked about earlier, the sales tax revenue, the impact of internet sales on those projections, just to make sure we can see how we anticipate that affecting our general fund budget.
There are caps for both projects that work on.
That is correct.
Those caps are.
For the first item related to the investment policy, $10,000, and for the second item related to the 5-year forecast, $40,000.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 17, Resolution 5585-17. Mrs. Daniels.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute an enterprise and rolling agreement with Microsoft Corporation.
Dr. Lopez.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit. This is just a continuation of an existing agreement?
Yes, basically, our 3-year previous agreement expired or expires this month. This 3-year agreement will be the new 3-year agreement and almost $100,000 a year less.
So it's well within budget.
Well within budget.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from the council?
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5585-17.
Good question. Any additional questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 18, Resolution 5586-17, Mrs. Daniels.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement with Xerox Government Services to provide hosting and technology support services for firehouse software.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5586-17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? Dr. Lopez, once again, this is just renewal of an existing agreement.
That's correct. This is software for the fire department that's hosted in the cloud. And I believe on Thursday night, it was asked what the pricing was for the other years. Would you guys like that information? If we had renewed for 1 year only, it was going to be $34,717. If we had renewed for 3 years, it was going to be $15,952 a year, which over 3 years was just under $48,000. And this proposal is for 5 years, which was $12,199 a year for a total of $60,995. So the difference between the 5-year and the 3-year is $13,000 and some change, which is basically what you would get for 4 years. We could stay 4 years in and break even.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 19, Resolution 5587-17, Mrs. Daniels.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to execute a master services agreement and statement of work with Rosenblatt Advisors LLC to provide information technology consulting services.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5587-17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Lopez, you could give us a short explanation of work purchase.
Sure. Excuse me. Sure, this is an agreement to work with Brunson White, and he will be working with us on a strategic plan and assessment of our information technology citywide.
Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? We went into a little more detail Thursday. Anybody has any questions? Now's the time. Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 20, Resolution 5588-17. Mrs. Daniels.
This authorizes the mayor to execute a master services agreement with Office Management Systems Inc. doing business as Majestic.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5588-17.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Dr. Lopez with just a short synopsis.
Sure, whereas the last agreement was working more strategically, a little bit longer term look, this company will be working with our information technology in terms of more of an operational aspect, assessment, policies, procedures, those types of things.
Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 21, Resolution 5589-17. Mrs. Daniels.
This resolution authorizes the mayor or his designee to execute an online customer service order form authorizing CBW Direct LLC as the seller and Bureau 5 Networks Inc. as the third-party cloud service provider.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5589-17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Lopez.
This is basically an ongoing agreement that will provide for our wireless access points in the city.
Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 21, Resolution 5589-17. Mrs. Daniels. Did that one. Item 22, motion to approve ABC application 140 Special Events Retail for CS Hoover LLC to hold a crawfish boil at the Cajun Steamer event on May 20th of this year in the parking lot of Cajun Steamer, 180 Main Street, Suite 200.
Mr. President, I move to approve the ABC application for 140 Special Events Retail.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? It's been an event that's been going on for several years. Must do well or they wouldn't be back. Any questions from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 23 is a public hearing to consider the request of Little Donkey 280 LLC for conditional use approval for the sale of restaurant retail liquor at Little Donkey to be located at 5363 Highway 280 South, Suite B100. Zara 280 LLC is the property owner and the property is zoned PC Plan Commercial. This is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything they would like to say? Anything from the council? If not, then I will entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. President, I move to approve the conditional use for Little Donkey 280 LLC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next, we have a motion to approve the ABC application for same entity.
Yes, Mr. President, I move to approve the ABC application for Little Donkey 280 LLC.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 24. This too is a public hearing to consider the request of L. Nick Davis, Mama G's Inc. for conditional use approval for the sale of on-premise beer and wine at Mama Goldberg's Deli to be located at 210 Doug Baker Boulevard, Suite 200, here in Hoover, inside the village at Lee Branch. Here Lee Branch Inc. is the property owner and the property is zoned C2 Community Business District. This is a public hearing. Anybody have anything to say to this application? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve the conditional use for sale of on-premise beer and wine at Mama Goldberg's Deli.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Once again, any comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next, we have a approval of the ABC application.
Yes, Mr. President, I move to approve the ABC application from Ongoing Works.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 25 is a public hearing to consider the request of Occasions, Inc., doing business as Swaree Event Gallery for conditional use approval for live entertainment at weddings, corporate, birthday, and other parties to be held at Swaree Event Gallery located at 2132 Lorna Ridge Lane, Unit 10. Imperial Holdings, Inc. is the property owner, and the property is in the C4 commercial district. Anyone here to speak on this item? Yes, sir. Come on down. Give us your name and address starting out.
Name is Pravesh Modi, address is 1503 Scottish Drive, Florida.
All right, what would you like to say?
Well, this is a event gallery like for the banquet hall. It's going to be mostly for the weddings and corporate events. And the reason for this hearing is a C4. So they might, if there's a wedding or if there's a corporate party, they might need some kind of live entertainment or some kind of DJ service. And therefore, I have to come and apply for this.
Are you the applicant?
Yes.
Very good. Hopefully we'll be saying welcome to Hoover.
Thank you. And it's a nice facility. We have already almost finished with the facility too.
Very good. Any questions for the applicant? In the audience? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'm open for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the conditional use for Occasions Incorporated, doing business as Soiree Event Gallery.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Once again, any questions or comments?
Just one quick question. The resolution does say other private parties, correct? As per the
It says
CNC.
other parties. Bob, is that something that we need to be specific about?
I've got a handout, Thursday evening, which listed the restrictions that the planning commission recommended. It does include live entertainment, limited to bands, and recorded music for private gatherings such as weddings and corporate.
Just want to make sure we're all.
Madam Clerk, if you would make sure that those restrictions are made a part of the minutes. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any additional questions from the audience? Hearing, seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. All right. Starting to get to the fun part. Item 26, set public hearings for Monday, June 5th, 2017, to consider the following requests which come forward with positive recommendation from the May 8th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Item A, the City of Hoover is seeking to zone recently annexed property located at 2313 Keaton Road to Hoover E2 State District. Ms. Brenda Long is the property owner. Ms. Danielson, I don't know if I should your thunder, or if you have anything to add.
It just rezones the property located at 2313 Teton Road to.
This will come for consideration and possible vote on June 5th. Item B, City of Hoover is seeking, well, I don't get paid attorney money, so I guess I'll let you go ahead and finish it.
This ordinance rezones the property located at 2829 Monte Vista Drive to R1 Single Family District.
All right, that too will be June 5th. Item C is Richard Johnson representing Black Ridge Partners LLC. This is a first reading of ordinance 17-2334. Ms. Daniels.
This ordinance includes a pre-zoning application, for the property currently known as the Pan property and the Carmichael property to PR1, Planned Single Family District, prior to being annexed to the city.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, if I recall these properties were small parcels that you were trying to negotiate with the previous owner, maybe even last year, and that owner has now selected to sell you the property. Suppose he is going to allow this to come forward without it being caught up in waiting for the next annexation meeting. Nothing more, nothing less. Louder.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Well, I guess we need a motion. No, it's first reading, all right. Item D, first reading, Richard Johnson representing USS PR Wilburn and SB Development Corp. requesting approval of the 11th Amendment to Trace Crossing PUD. Ms. Danielson, you want to take care of items 3, 4, and 5 as far as first readings, and then we'll get into some discussion.
Let's ordinance 17-2335 rezones the property described in parcels A through I exhibit that is attached to this ordinance as PR1 Planned Single Family District. Under ordinance number 17-2336, this ordinance rezones property currently known as the Fleming Farms property and the Fleming Farms 2 property as PR1 Single Family District. The final ordinance number 17-2337, this ordinance rezones property currently known as parcel A and B on the attached exhibit as PC Planned Commercial District. This property is fully described on exhibit A to ordinance.
All right, for those of you who have not been recently to a council meeting, one of the changes that I made as president was to have any presentations to be shown at the first reading. Therefore, it gives both the council and the citizens an opportunity to go home, do your due diligence, and come back, probably entertain allowing some back and forth discussion at the next work session, as well as the meeting prior to a vote on June 5th. Tonight, I would prefer to, I don't want any questions asked of the applicant after his presentation. I'd like statements and comments to be made to the council. We're going to take those statements and comments and do our due diligence. We already know that all of you know our email addresses. So we don't mind to continue to receive those communications as well. I know my phone number's out there. I'm sure other members wouldn't mind hearing from me personally as well. So at this point, I'd like to ask Mr. Johnson to make any presentation that he would have. Or,
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith. My name is Jonathan Belcher with Signature Homes. Our address is 3545 Market Street. That's Hoover 35226. First, thank you all for being here tonight and allowing the presentation. If I could I get the other microphone, please? A few things I want to. I would like to clarify one thing on item C in regards to moving the 141 single-family residential units. I'm sure probably June 5th is the better date to do this, but just to make sure for the record, when we submitted the application for the PUD at Black Ridge, part of that was to raise the school fee as part of the building permit from $1,500 to $3,000 per home. While we're moving these to Trace Crossings PUD in this proposal, that same school fee would apply. And the way that we propose it to the staff of the city would be to do that out of the first 141 homes that are permitted at the Wilbur Lake development. That way we would be much easier to account for those. We wouldn't have to worry about whether or not they're all part of the Black Ridge PUD or moving over. So what I'd like to present now is the 11th Amendment to the Trace Crossings PUD. Starting out, this is an overview slide of our proposal. The rezoning planning includes numerous parcels throughout the Trace Crossings neighborhood. Some of the parcels included have been a topic of discussion for the neighboring residents and Planning and Zoning Commission over the last year. Because of this, we elected to bring forth all the parcels into one rezoning plan, presented to the residents of Trace Crossings for feedback, and then modify the plan to what you'll see tonight. Modifications have been made as recently as this weekend, and I'll share some of those with you. Just an overview, again, Interstate 459 is here on the top of the screen. This is a railroad here that borders the southwestern portion of the property. This is Stadium Trace Parkway here as it connects to Highway 150. And this is the current end of the parkway, and this is the area that's under construction. Hoover Met here, Hoover High School, Trace Crossings, and then Bumpus are all located here as well. The first parcel that you see is currently owned by Signature Homes and consists of 4.3 acres. Is located just beyond the current end of Stadium Trace Parkway, which is here. Parcel 1 is currently zoned PC and is proposed for planned residential, or PR1. Our future plan for this area is a park that would include nature trails and tie to the Wilburn trail system that will be developed, including Parcel 1. This entire area here, which is part of the Wilburn PUD, would be a total of 73 acres future park. The reason the balance of this area is not shown is highlighted because it's already zoned PR1 today and will allow for that use. Parcels 7 and 13 includes land that's located at the intersection of Brock's Gap and South Shades Crest Road. Here's South Shades Crest dividing the parcels, and here's Brock's Gap where it intersects with South Shades Crest. Parcel 7 is currently zoned PI, or Planned Industrial, and was recently purchased by the city from United States Steel to allow for the proposed new interchange on Interstate 459. Parcel 13 will be rezoned from PI to PR1 and will become part of the Trace Crossings common area. Parcel 13 is approximately 51 acres and will provide a great buffer for the residents of Scout Creek, as you can see here, and ensure this land will be preserved in its current condition. Furthermore, the rezoning of Parcel 13 will eliminate the possibility of any commercial development on this site, thereby eliminating any additional traffic from that site. Parcel 11, this is the site that we refer to as the Boot property. This is at the southernmost tip of the Wilburn Lake development. Again, this is bordered by the railroad. This is the convergence of Buck Creek and the Cahaba River. The area shown in yellow are part of the, will be zone PR1, and the area shown in green will be the areas donated to the city as part of our park plan. The area shown in yellow will include a portion of the 141 homes that we previously discussed being moved from the Black Ridge PUD. Parcels 4, 6, and 10 is approximately 110 acres and currently owned by United States Steel. As you can see, the property is located directly across from the Hoover Met. This is the intersection of Mineral Trace. This is the main entrance to the Met, Learning Lane and Brock's Gap intersection of Stadium Trace, and then again here's Fleming Parkway and Bumpus Middle School. The current zoning is planned industrial and planned industrial restricted. So parcel 4 is currently PI, and then 10 and 6 are PI restricted. The current proposal changes the parcels to PR1, which parcel 4 is approximately 58 acres. The conditional use is the proposed zoning for parcel 10, and it's proposed as 28 acres. And then PC or preferred or planned commercial for parcel 6, which is 24 acres. On parcel 4, PR1, the PR1 zoning proposed for this property will be limited to 100 single-family homes and will include an undisturbed buffer between the PR1 and Chestnut Ridge community. Parcel 10, the zoning proposed for this parcel is referred to as a conditional use, which means the development must be built in accordance with the plan that I'll show you in a future slide. The proposed conditional use plan on parcel 10 includes up to 110,000 or 111,000 square feet of commercial space, and then 54 residential homes, which are shown here. This is the commercial area. The zoning currently allows for mixed use where there could be commercial space on the main level of the building shown in this area here. However, the way this plan is designed, it would currently have to be built for townhomes. This particular product that's shown on here are the specific townhome buildings that we have currently under construction in the Ross Bridge Village Center. In addition to this conditional use, the same restrictions that I'm about to read on that are applying to parcel 6 would also be placed on parcel 10 in the commercial area. So the following PC permitted uses shall be prohibited on parcel 6 and parcel 10. Auto dealerships, building material sales, domestic equipment rental, hospitals, except freestanding emergency rooms are allowed, car wash and automotive service establishments, which include muffler, tire, oil change, battery, brakes, transmission shops, and gasoline dispensing facilities. Again, those would all be prohibited uses on the site, both 6 and 10. The gasoline dispensing facilities, when we originally submitted the application, was part of it, and then that was removed after the discussions leading up to the planning and zoning request. The following PC permitted uses shall require a conditional use approval. Those would include restaurants with drive-thrus, cleaners with drive-thrus, pharmacies with drive-thrus, and neighborhood hardware stores. The maximum building height shall be limited to 3 stories, except that a motel or hotel building located more than 500 feet from a single-family residential property boundary that is located on Chestnut Ridge Drive shall not exceed 4 stories in height. I've got a slide as well that will demonstrate the location of that boundary. All mechanical equipment located on a roof shall be screened so it is not visible from Stadium Trace Parkway. The method of screening such mechanical equipment shall be approved by the TCBA, which is the Trace Crossings Business Association. The surface of any exterior walls visible from off-premise shall be composed of masonry, stucco, cementitious siding, which is the equivalent of a hardy plank product, site cast panels with stucco applied, paint finish or other materials as approved by the TCBA. No metal wall panels of any shape or type, or any type of CMU, which is basically a concrete block, or glazed brick will be allowed as an exposed exterior component. All exterior parking access light fixtures shall not exceed 25 feet in height and will cast light down and will not spill over onto adjacent property. I know there's been some discussion about the height of the lights. We're certainly open to a shorter size of the lights. So if we need to reduce the height of that, that's fine. I just want to make sure we understand that if you do reduce the height, it typically requires more lights to be installed. But we are certainly open to either approach. The existing zoning of 4, 6, and 10, just to point out, if we were to leave the existing zoning in place, these parcels, it would be shown on this slide here. Again, this is the mineral trace access to Stadium Trace, which is basically the center of these 2 zonings. It would be, the property is split with 55 acres zone PI and 55 acres PI restricted. I wanted to point out the PI zoning, which is the blue shade here, allows for all uses both in PC, which is planned commercial, and PO, which would be planned office. There are no current restrictions on the PI parcel, and all the uses we are proposing to restrict can be built today without a rezoning hearing. In addition, there would be no buffer requirement, where our proposal includes approximately 19 acres of undisturbed buffer adjacent to the Chestnut Ridge community. Parcels 3, 9, and 12. Signature Homes is currently under contract to purchase parcels 3 and 9 through U.S. Steel. Parcel 3 is currently zoned PI as well. And parcel 9 is located in unincorporated Shelby County and will require annexation to the city of Hoover after zoning. Signature Homes owns parcel 12 and it is also in unincorporated Shelby County and will require annexation. Parcels 3 and 9 are proposed to be rezoned as PR1 and will include no more than 200 single-family homes. These homes, along with the 100 homes on parcel 4 and the 54 homes on parcel 10, will be moved from the Trigger Creek property located on Highway 52 in the city of Hoover, thereby creating no additional homes impacting the school system. This is a slight change from last week. At the planning and zoning hearing, the 54 townhomes were not considered being taken from the Trigger Creek property. They were over and above the current U.S. Steel PUD of Trace Crossings. So we did make a change there, so those would be a reduction to the Trigger Creek property. Parcels 12 and 11 that I mentioned earlier will include the 141 homes we mentioned from the Black Ridge PUD. So in total, there'll be 495 homes added to the Trace Crossings PUD. The Black Ridge PUD and Trigger Creek property density will be reduced by that same number of 495 homes. This next slide is just a summary of all the park areas. There's a total of 513 acres in our proposed rezoning plan. If approved, there's 282 acres total that will become park space. 38 acres will adjoin the new sports complex, which is located here and then here. 120 acres will be adjacent to the Cahaba River, which is the area shown in green here. It's a little more than 3 miles of additional frontage along the Cahaba River. 73 acres will be adjacent to the extension of Stadium Trace, which I referred to earlier. This was located where parcel 1 on our first slide, and then the remaining 51 acres that will become common area as part of the Trace Crossings neighborhood. So additionally, the areas that's going to be donated here along the sports complex provides the opportunity for the new road, proposed road to be connected from Bumpus Middle School over to Hoover High School. And then you have the additional road that's being proposed to connect from Stadium Trace, which is just beyond the intersection of Learning Lane and Brock's Gap. And it's right before the first entrance to the Met, and it would provide an additional access point to the high school parking lot that exists today. So just to summarize from the traffic study, these are the improvements that will be made as a result of the proposed rezoning. Currently on Learning Lane, we have in Brock's Gap to construct a right-bound turn lane from Stadium Trace northbound. That's heading towards Highway 150. There'll be a right turn onto Learning Lane headed towards the high school. Future traffic improvements that are proposed in the 11th Amendment at Highway 150 and the Stadium Trace Preserve Parkway intersection. There'll be a second right-hand turn from Highway 150 onto Stadium Trace Parkway. There'll be a second through lane constructed on Stadium Trace Parkway northbound, which is where Stadium Trace converts into Preserve Parkway. There'll be a signalized intersection at the intersection of Fleming Parkway and Stadium Trace, and then constructing the roadway connecting Bumpus to Hoover High School. I know from discussions with staff and several members of the council, there's studies being done for additional connections that are potential to Highway 150 and South Shades Crest, and also obviously with the city's significant step taken on the parcel that was purchased in the past few months, the I-459 interchange consideration. So the area that was most affected by the zoning plan is the Chestnut Ridge neighborhood. I've got a few more slides I'd like to show just to discuss it. Here you'll see two cross sections. The first one we have cross section A, lines where the Hoover met, and then is at the first roundabout. So when you enter into Chestnut Ridge, there's a roundabout located here. The second cross section you'll see is in between the final two roundabouts, and basically centers between Fleming Parkway and Mineral Trace. In cross-section A, the homes in Chestnut Ridge sit approximately 120 feet above the location of the proposed homes in conditional use zoning. Notice the power line easement is located in the middle of the buffer area here. That's the existing buffer that exists both above and below the power line. In cross-section B, which is on the bottom of the page, the homes in Chestnut Ridge sit approximately 140 feet above the location of the proposed homes. Again, this area will be all single family. Notice that the power line easement is located in this proposed residential area. So the power line transitions from the slope and then comes down. We would relocate that and transition it to underground power if the zoning was approved.
Special real quick, since you got the slide up, you talked about keeping the HVAC units on top of the commercial buildings hidden from stadium trace. Are you going to do the same thing, keep the same units hidden in Chestnut Ridge?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the next few slides will demonstrate the buffer area that's being preserved, and again, just want to stress that it will be undisturbed as it exists today. There's a variation as you go down through because we specifically identified the distance located from each particular parcel of the homes that are located in Chestnut Ridge. The buffer will consist of all the trees existing on the slope that were not disturbed during the prior development of Chestnut Ridge. And what you'll see in the areas that adjoin parcel 6 and parcel 10, the buffer range is anywhere from 259 feet at a minimum, which is behind the very first home here. And then the largest area between these two is 344 feet. On parcel 4, same condition applies here. You can see the buffer at the smallest area ranges from 301 feet, and then we get to approximately 485 feet at this largest point. This particular line that's going across the parcel demonstrates the 500-foot boundary that I mentioned earlier that would dictate the hotel height. So anything, if there were anything constructed on this side, it'd have to be 3 stories or less. So it restricts anything in this area would be the only area that something could be over the 3-story height, but no more than 4 stories.
Mr. President, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Belcher, with the restriction there that you're talking about to the PUD and the hotel height, if approved, would the line not move down to where the townhomes are since it will be included in the PUD?
I think because it's a conditional use, that wouldn't change that, but I'll defer to Mr. House on that question just to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn there.
The 500-foot line encompasses most of the mixed use area for the conditional use, but anything south of that, anything below that line can go 4 stories if it's a hotel or motel.
So this is the conditional use plan, just a rendered site plan of it to hopefully better demonstrate the plan. Again, these are the townhome buildings that reflect the buildings that are currently under construction in Ross Bridge. These shown in this darker orange are all the commercial buildings that are proposed. Stadium Trace Parkway, you'll see there's 3 different access points. This access point aligns with the main entrance to the Hoover Met that exists today. This access point aligns with Mineral Trace. Just looking at this slide from Google Earth, just want to point out the similarity to what we've got in Ross Bridge that exists today. Everything aside from the rendering that you see on there exists today in Ross Bridge. This is the Welcome Center. This is our Signature Homes corporate office. The Hoover Fire Station. This is the new veterinary that opened up. So very similar configuration the way the commercial's oriented. If this was Stadium Trace Parkway, and this is the proposed townhomes, and there's some existing townhomes we have here, and then we also have some townhome buildings here as well. So just to show the similarities. This is a rendering of what the project looks like when it's finished at Ross Bridge. And then there's, again, a closer look at the site plan, along with some renderings of the townhome buildings that are under construction today. So these buildings reflect the floor plans that you see on the conditional use plan. Again, it's important to point out in a conditional use plan, this is the product that would have to be built as a condition of this proposal. And if anything was to be built different than that, I'll have to come back for a rezoning request to change that. So just to summarize, we're adding 495 homes to the Trace Crossings PUD. However, these homes will not be any increase to the number of homes that would impact the school system because the adjoining neighborhoods will be reduced by that same amount, the Black Ridge PUD and the Trigger Creek property. There'll be 282 acres of parks that do not currently exist in the Trace Crossings community. Currently there's 187 acres just on this plan that's zoned as commercial property between parcels 3, 4, 6, 10, and 13. Of that, 106 acres are zoned PI, restricted, and the remaining 81 acres will allow for any type of commercial use. That was the parcel 3 that was adjacent to the school, and then the parcel that started at Mineral Trace and ran along to then the Stadium Trace Parkway. So the proposal changes that from the 187 existing acres to down to just 33 acres of total commercial remaining out of this plan. Of that 33 acres, 12 will be under the conditional use, and then the remaining 21 acres will be zoned PC. So when we presented our traffic study, the traffic study did 2 things. One, it points out the change that is going to take place and what improvements need to be required to maintain certain conditions today. While we know those conditions are challenged, those are the recommendations made by the traffic study, so that condition on Stadium Trace would not deteriorate from what they already are today. Secondly, the traffic study as compared to if we did not rezone the property versus the proposal here, because of the significant reduction in the commercial property, it would be a 42% reduction in the future traffic as compared to that. So finally, the proposal, the new road infrastructure that we have will certainly add to the safety that we need to have from the school standpoint by having the new roads connecting out of the high school, and then hopefully alleviate some of the traffic issues that we're seeing at the intersection of Learning Lane and Stadium Trace. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Murphy, I think you requested first bite at the apple.
Yes, sir. Firstly, thank you so much for presenting. Whether this plan is approved, modified, or not approved at all, I think the city of Hoover, especially our engineering department, has a pretty good grasp of problematic areas as far as transportation throughout the city. All right? And they have models, and you name it, for that. With that being said, Trace Crossings needs some 10 or 11 care when it comes to traffic, in a sense. And I'll ask, I don't know if Alan or Tim or Rod can answer this for me. By next meeting or sometime soon, can we have some ideas on what type of proposals that can be needed to aid that area, B, any costs associated with that. The reason why I say that is I don't want to be the gorilla in the room causing any issues with that, because generally on the priority list, you may have a priority of a road that needs to be constructed. And then next year, something else takes over that and it keeps down the road. I think trace crossings have been in the top 3, in my opinion, quite some time. So I commend what we're doing with the traffic study from South Shades Graves Elementary School to the bridge to do things with that. The entrance and exit ramp to 459. But it's some more things that we need to look at, and I don't want to be the person slowing it down. I want to make sure that's the top on the priority list when it comes to road transportation area. So any comment you can give to that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Murphy. I think the city is looking at 3 or 4 different options, multiple options in this area, and we have been for quite some time. And I think we'll be prepared to show those and present those to you at that time.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess it is. Tim does a fantastic job in engineering and planning. Do you foresee that any ideas or proposals, approximations, something you can give me come to the next June meeting? Or is that too soon? Or, I don't want you to, guess and you can't hold.
No, I believe we'll be able to present you some ideas that we're looking at then.
Okay, at that point in time, what about costs associated? I'm stretching here, but.
I'll try to give you some preliminary numbers on that too.
All right, thank you so much.
All right. Any questions from the council?
Yes, Mr. President. We have all received numerous emails concerning the traffic in the area. The traffic study that you mentioned, I've not received a copy of that. I don't know who did, I don't know anything about it. But I thought that besides I would like to have a copy, we've received so many emails about it. Can we not put that traffic study on the city website for the citizens to review?
Yes, sir, sure. And we've shared it with the residents of Trace Crossings. Mr. Long did so, I believe, week before last. And it was just a requirement as far as the original submittal to BNC. And it did incorporate the Finley Center, incorporate all the proposals here, so it took into consideration all those when it did the traffic counts there.
I think that placing it on the city website would be a great thing for those that may not have attended the meeting. So I personally don't have a copy of it.
Okay, we'll make sure we get it.
I have no idea what it says.
Okay.
Perhaps you could just email a copy to all the councilmen to make sure that we all have.
Be glad to.
Mr. House, you have a microphone again. When I'm looking at this, the one thing that jumps out to me is the transference of units. The 141, I know from Blackridge was a holdback that you had in the Blackridge PUD for that. The 300 from, this is 354 now from Trigger Creek. I have a couple of questions about that, but I'll start with you, Mr. House. Today, if we were to look at the current available units in the Trace Crossings PUD, what would that number be?
Not too many. I don't have that figure. I do have a chart here, I might take it.
So it's a minimal amount if we
Yes,
were
sir.
to build that out based on the density that was decided, the numbers that were decided on when this was annexed in the city. And the amendments is forth under PUD.
The Bronx Gap part of Trace Crossings is the only part that really has any available vacant lots. I think there's 77 here as of the 1st of 2017.
All right, so this property we're considering with the 300 units currently has 2,318 on it. And if I'm correct, that property was annexed in 1993 along with Blackridge and some others, but that certain section of land is not zoned currently?
That's correct.
Do we know, I guess, Mr. Soto, this would be for you, Is that an upcoming project? Future?
Long term.
Long term, okay. I would be remiss if I didn't say that I had some concern about moving these units around. Now, I know that they're all, the school system has factored these into the numbers, but, you know, having gone through the rezoning for the last 3 years, as you call it, I know that everything is zoned for a specific reason. Now, this is zoned for the same high school feeder pattern, of course, right now. And there are 3 school properties attached to this annexation agreement from 1993. So it's possible that there could be more schools down there when Sugar Creek is built out, if that PUD is developed and everything. And we are talking about this plan is going to be going for a few years, but I'm just concerned about this move, and I think that we'd like to hear more from Mac, from you, from Alan about how you feel about that move and moving those units around.
I think it's, from a planning perspective, I can't speak for Mac, but in my opinion, it's a benefit. All those 2,300 units right now are south of Highway 52, called accessibility. Anytime you look at serving a community, or you consider it as annexation as well, does that action that you're going to take improve or diminish the efficiency of providing services? And in this case, we'll be moving roughly 495 units, I guess less than 141 in Pine Bridge, moving it closer to town, so to speak, closer into the community, easier to protect from all types of public services, police, fire, school buses, garbage as well. So from the perspective of, is it more efficient to have those 495 units down there, or 354 units that are south of 52, or up by the stadium? I would say it's an improvement with regard to efficiency of municipal services to get them up close to the stadium. Same with Black Ridge. Black Ridge is south of Wilburn. Take those 141 units, move them closer to town. It's easier, more efficient, and cheaper for the city to serve out in the hinterland. So
Mr. House, understanding that there will be a flood at Trigger Creek at some point, more than likely. But if it was just to go R1, and what it is right now, do you know about how many homes could go in Trigger Creek?
no, sir.
2,000, 2,500?
PUDs regulate the number of units that can go on a piece of property and have flexibility in the lot sizes. The lot width is prescribed in the ordinance at a minimum of 60 feet, but there is no lot area. So generally speaking, you can get the maximum number of units of close to 2,000 in the case of Trigger Creek on the property, because there is no minimum lot size. And that's, from an environmental perspective, it's better to cluster smaller lots in a compact area and leave the more difficult property to develop alone, because the more difficult property to develop is usually steep terrain and lowlands. So clustering of units is a good thing. So you'll get that yield in a PUD because you have more flexibility. If you were to zone it R1, have a minimum lot area of 15,000 square feet, minimum lot width of 75 feet, then it would depend on how much of that land they can disturb, and the topography and terrain, and how the layout would occur. So you really don't know until the thing is engineered.
So if right now you'd be looking at 2,000 homes, you're going to remove 300, you're still going to have 1,700 that you're going to have to provide the city services to.
Yes.
So where's the city?
The 354 that you don't.
Yeah, but they're going to be down there anyway.
Yes, sir, it'll be a longer term, and just fewer units further from downtown Hoover. Every little bit helps.
I think everybody gets what you're saying.
I have a couple more. To parcel 6, is there a reason why, right now it's one parcel, 10 and 6, is there a reason why it was divided into, and why the configuration on 10, which is a very nice configuration, could not be continued over to 6? Is there a reason why that was? I mean, that's more of a question, Mr. Belcher.
The developer chose not to.
Is there a current contract on 6 as far as what would go there?
Not to my knowledge.
And then one final question, going back to the Trigger Creek units, are those susceptible to all of the conditions that were placed on that in the annexation in 1993?
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions from the council?
Yes, Mr. President, if this is approved, will there be any need to increase police and fire services in that area?
The Black Ridge PUD and the Wilburn PUD make reference to the fact that a new fire station will be located south of where the parkway currently ends, and the Black Ridge PUD has a requirement in there, they shall provide a fire station, basically when the fire department determines that it's necessary, in a location where the fire department selects.
I guess I've got a couple more questions for Belcher. Who owns parcel 10?
Parcel 10 is owned by US Steel.
So they do own it, so they can make the adjustments. The enhancements on 150, you already talked to Aldott about those, not gonna have any problems getting permits to make those enhancements.
We've not had any discussions yet with Aldott. No, sir, just been with Mr. Long at the city.
Architecture, one of the emails I received, they were concerned that it was gonna have a Patton Creek look. You and I talked a little bit about that earlier today. You referenced earlier that the architectural style was gonna be more of what's seen in Ross Bridge.
Well, that's what we would expect it to be done as, certainly the portion that we have under our control. I know from talking with Mr. Silver at US Steel that that is their intent as well. He is one of the board members of the Trace Crossings Residential Association and Business Association, and it would be up to them to protect that look and their right under the current PUD document that's there now.
Expected but not guaranteed.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the council?
I have a couple of things. To the Mr. Posey's line, moving houses around between PUDs, school system and fire and city services have that impact in their projection, but there is concern that moving them from southwest to east could increase the rate in which they arrive, to where the projected time is, they don't have as much time to prepare for that. Does this plan in any way, if implemented, change your implementation plan, your building plan, number of permits pulled per year? How would that impact your plans?
I wouldn't think so. What's interesting, what our experience has been, because as you know, we built a lot of the homes in Hoover. Over the past 5 years, we've built north of 80% of all the new homes that have been constructed in the city. And this year, as a matter of fact, the city building permits are down in single family from 96 through the first quarter last year to 53 through the first quarter of this year. And there's still plenty of places to go and purchase a home. So I think there's a lot of other factors that influence that. And not everybody wants to live in that particular location. We've got a diverse city, and so we see those choices being made. Not everybody thinks Ross Bridge is convenient, and not everybody can afford the preserve.
So over the next 10 years, that line stays about the same under this plan versus?
We would think so. You may see some modest increase from it, just because we are running out of places to have new construction in the city. But I don't see it gaining any more building permits than we currently have today, and probably reducing as time goes on.
Any other questions from the council?
Mr. President,
Dr.
if the plan's approved, I foresee in parcel 10, a lot of foot traffic coming over to the event spaces. So a lot of walking back and forth. I'd spoken about some brick overlay on the roadway for pedestrian crosswalks. Kind of like Auburn University has around their city, some brick overlay, so as you're driving, you realize it's a pedestrian foot traffic area. Is that something y'all will be able to provide?
We'd be happy to work with the city on making improvements there, that the staff would approve and council as well, so, yeah, we'd be more than happy to.
Is anyone here from U.S. Steel representing, or are you the representative tonight for U.S. Steel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Councilman Murphy brought up the gorilla in the room and traffic. I'm gonna bring up the elephant in the room. The hotel. Are there any current plans to put a hotel on that parcel? Are there any current buyers?
Currently, no specific buyer exists for that parcel or parcel 10.
Is that the major intent, to put a hotel there or other commercial?
No, I don't see that as the major intent behind it. The proposal of the PC use, the intent behind it is to allow flexibility to complement the Met, the Finley Center, and then I guess really just complement that area is the overall intent behind it. Because there's no specific buyer today, there was no specific plan offered on parcel 6.
Mr. President, last question. I had the pleasure of meeting with, Ms. Posey and also Smith and I with the school system, and just keeping a note in current state with build out of west side of Hoover, school district will need a additional space. Mr. Presley may mention that several times. So as we begin to, as the mayor begins to continue to talk to Dr. Murphy on his weekly basis, I believe, sir, you were weekly, that we keep in mind with some partnership monthly, any partnerships we need to be looking at as far as ensuring that whatever we do, the school system is taken care of, because that's, regardless of retail or anything else, that's what's keeping us, keeping the glue, that's the glue to keep us together.
Mr. President, one last addition, I'm sorry, to piggyback on Councilman Murphy's traffic situation earlier. I just want to point out that when you do present traffic options, I would like to point out that you essentially provide some options away from South Shades Crest, Highway 52 area. I believe that area is already congested. And if there's an alternative traffic issue or exit point, I believe it needs to be somewhere other than Brock's Gap or South Shades Crest.
Anything else from the council? All right, we're ready for the audience. Ms. McGregor? Not tonight? Okay. All right, if those of you that want to speak would start lining up on the wall, it'd probably make things move a little faster. When you come up to the microphone, you can please give your name and address. And like I said, what we're looking for is comments, thoughts, concerns, so we can use those moving forward in our deliberation.
My name is Nancy Clarn. I live at 788 Chestnut Trace, Hoover 35244. Thank you for the council for being here and for allowing us to speak. Several things that I've heard tonight have changed since the last time we even saw Amendment 11, which was last week. So Amendment 11 seems to be a moving target for us. But I'm going to speak to the things that were in there when we were last presented that. According to the Hoover zoning ordinance, townhouses and duplexes are both expressly excluded from the planned commercial district. I have a handout with the exact language taken from the actual city ordinance. There's one for each of you. You can take a quick look. That is something that is a concern to us. As far as transferring units from PUD to PUD and changing the density, that act in itself is very confusing. I don't think there is a clear understanding of what that is doing, but what seems to be a pattern here is that it's constantly brought into the Trace Crossing area.
So being a resident of Trace Crossing, while all of this on paper may seem to be okay, it's causing quite a problem for the Trace Crossings area. Right now, we're in the process of adding over 1,600 homes to Trace Crossing with the addition of Lake Wilburn and Black Ridge. Why do we need to rush into more houses when the first brick hasn't been laid for those 1,600? That's a little bit confusing to me. The street name in Amendment 11 is incorrect. There is no such street as Chestnut Ridge Drive. It is Chestnut Trace. So we would like for that to be corrected. As far as Parcel 6 is concerned, the lack of information in Amendment 11 for Parcel 6 is inconsistent with the spirit of the planned unit development process, particularly given the extent to which Trace Crossings PUD has been developed. With no clear vision for this property, one can only imagine what another failed commercial area would look like. We already have the Winn-Dixie Shopping Center. It's vacant, unattended, and virtually ready for a hotel that could be built right there on 150. We have Earth Fair, Jesse's Restaurant, Legacy Barbecue, Johnny Rockets, just to name a few. The gentleman that got up and spoke earlier tonight about the app, his first statement to you was that brick and mortar commercial development is going away. We don't want empty commercial development sitting in the middle of our residential neighborhood. That is dangerous and it's irresponsible. I ask you to really think about what we're doing here. There are 99 empty storefronts in a 5-mile stretch down Highway 150. I know because my husband and I counted them. We don't want empty storefronts or failed commercial in our backyards. They cleared the land for the village at Brock's Gap almost 9 years ago. There is nothing built there today. The land is cleared, often overgrown. Signs have changed weekly, not weekly, but seasonally, as to when a development is going to start, and there's still nothing there. We have no idea if there will even be a need for a hotel or a motel or other commercial businesses, especially ones with drive-throughs. There are 9 hotels down 150. Their average vacancy rate is 30%. That's a total of 3 vacant hotels down 150. Why would we need another one in the middle of a residential area? Lighting in the commercial area went from 18 feet to 25. 18 was already too high. There are far too few restrictions considering where this property is located. The size of parcels 6 and 10, and the parcels keep changing a little bit in the acreage, but to put in perspective how large that area is, it would be like picking up Patton Creek and putting it in the middle of 3 schools, 1,500 residential homes, and a church. How can we do that to the Trace Crossings development? Amendment 11 states that in the event of a conflict with either the PUD plan or the zoning ordinance, the amendment shall control. That usurps all authority. I've made copies of that out of Amendment 11 for each of you. Every one of you ran for your council seat strongly voicing concerns that Hoover had no master plan. I went to every debate where you sat on the stages talked about what you foresaw as betterment of Hoover. You spoke to the fact that Hoover had developed property and grown too quickly with no consideration for the overall consequences, traffic, schools, and property value, to name a few. Well, it appears to me that we're heading down that same path. What we are asking is that we implore the council to please come to the aid of our community, Trace Crossings. Please consider the following actions. Postpone consideration of this rezoning until an overall master plan and a unified development concept can be brought forth. Please disallow a hotel or motel. This is an inappropriate place for a hotel among 3 schools, residential dwellings on all sides. If parcels 10 and 6 are eventually approved for PC, please disallow townhomes, duplexes, and any other adjoined home as required by the PC ordinance. Please disallow the at-will transfer, borrowing, or movement of density allowances so that all the parcels comply with the ordinance and the PUD density maximums. Please require the rewriting of Amendment 11 to remove the conditions that allow that amendment to rule in case of conflict with city ordinances and the Trace Crossings PUD. Please add restrictions to the amendment to require brick exteriors for all buildings and homes added to parcels 4, 6, and 10 so that they match and meet with the current styles and standards up and down Stadium Trace and in Trace Crossings. Lastly, please require this amendment, all associated plans, and the master plan to be reviewed and approved by the new city planner. Also allow public review and comment of these same documents. Within all these reviews and approvals take place before resubmittal to the Planning and Zoning Commission or the council. I appreciate your time. I hope you know that this is deeply affecting our homes, and we love Hoover. We love where we live. And I hope you'll take a good look at this. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Cantley. I live at 5692 Chestnut Trace in Hoover, Alabama, 35244. I'm sending down to the council members some handouts about the traffic study. So Mr. Green, these are a few salient pages. There's a copy for the city clerk and the mayor. I would like to thank the developers and the city for completing a new traffic study in May, which includes all the existing traffic, all the proposed development, and the Finley Center. That study does document today's traffic and does projections to 2026. However, there are some concerns with this study. I've provided a few select pages from the traffic study, as well as pages from the Highway Capacity Manual, which is the basis for the service levels in the study. So let's begin with the first page of your handout, which is the definitions from the Highway Capacity Manual. This is for levels of service of intersections with traffic lights. So score D is approaching unstable flow. Score E is unstable flow and an intolerable delay. And score F is a congested flow with delays in excess of 80 seconds. Cars can't clear through intersections, and is considered unacceptable to most drivers. Now, when I was in school, we call a D barely passing, an E not passing, almost flunking, and an F certainly flunking. So what did the traffic study tell us about the current traffic? So please turn the page to traffic study page 10 in your handout. And we would call this the report card for the existing traffic. There are 7 intersections with lights which have a score of D. barely passing, unstable flow. There are 4 intersections with lights that have a score of E, not passing, almost flunking, intolerable delay. So of the 26 grades on this page, 42% are not what I would call good grades. Now, I would like to ask you what is missing from this page. Where are all the intersections on Brock's Gap and Stadium Trace where there are no lights? That traffic was excluded from this study. It's as if the study concluded that no one living on Brock's Gap or living or working on Stadium Trace must enter or exit his or her workplace or residence between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. or 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. I call your attention next to the recommendations on traffic study, page 25 of the handout, and I've highlighted those for you. Basically, this traffic study states that it's okay for us to continue to have unstable, intolerable, and unacceptable traffic flows even after improvements. Next, turn to traffic study, page 26 in your handout. This represents the traffic at the study intersections in 2026 with the improvements as outlined by Mr. Belcher. Even with these improvements, Highway 150 at Stadium Trace will have an overall score of E in the morning and F in the evening. South Shades Crest Road at Brock's Gap Parkway will score an E in the mornings, and Brock's Gap Parkway at Stadium Trace has an overall score of D in the mornings. So there are 34 grades on this page. 47% in total are a D, E, or F. Now, if this were your child's report card, you'd be asking some serious questions. The levels of service now and in 2026 are not acceptable. I have one final concern about this study. It did not, I believe, correctly estimate the school traffic from Lake Wilburn, Black Ridge, Parcel 4, and Parcel 10. The study assumed that only 5% of the traffic from these residential areas would traverse Brock's Gap Parkway. However, we've been told that Lake Wilburn and Black Ridge will be zoned for South Shades Crest Elementary, and it's likely then that parcels 4 and 10 would be zoned for the same school. So 5% of that traffic appears to me to be grossly low. We still only have 2 ways in and out of Trace Crossings, Brock's Gap and Stadium Trace, and as of now, there are no plans to add another road. So I'm very interested in what's to be presented on June 5th. And just as a reminder, Brock's Gap is a 2-lane road and it was not designed for commercial traffic. But it is being used for that. It is the major egress to I-459 after the SEC ball games end. I would ask you to think about what would happen in Trace Crossings if any or all of it had to be evacuated given the 2 roads that we have to deal with today. What if there were a railroad or truck chemical spill during the rush hour? Could it be handled? I have some significant concerns about that. From personal experience, I worked in River Chase where the business park lost power for an entire afternoon. It took 2 to 3 hours for all of the employees to leave that park. Lastly, I want to point out that there is nothing in PUD Amendment 11 that does anything to address the safety of pedestrians, and I heard a question about that tonight. I urge each one of you to come to the intersection of Stadium Trace and Brock's Gap at the end of one of the SEC baseball games. After you've waited 10 minutes for the traffic to ease, trot across in the crosswalk in the time allowed. It's not possible to make it across the street safely. I've tried it. Hoover police are very focused on getting the traffic out of Trace Crossings and not on pedestrian traffic. This latest proposal proposes to put a hotel and a village center in parcels 10 and 6. And how will these new pedestrians get across Stadium Trace safely? Quite frankly, overly congested traffic in Trace Crossings could run off the very sports events and businesses you are trying to entice. Sports events may book once, but they won't be back. That results in lost revenue for the city of Hoover. And even Governor Ivey understands this problem. Last week, while discussing the traffic on I-65 in Shelby County, she made this statement: infrastructure development is economic development. If traffic is congested and our roads are blocked, transportation is slowed and the wheels of economic progress are slowed. Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
at the end of the May 8th Planning and Zoning meeting, you spoke forcefully about and committed to solving the traffic problems in Trace Crossings, and I thank you. I urge you, the mayor, and all the city council members to make the same commitment and back it up with action. Specifically, if there is a motion to approve this rezoning, then I would ask that the motion include the following: no building permit will be issued for parcels 4, 6, and 10 until the traffic problems in Trace Crossings are corrected. Every intersection should score a C or better. And a pedestrian bridge will be constructed across Stadium Trace at the Brock's Gap intersection. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, thank you.
Common thread tonight from Trace Crossing residents goes back to a comprehensive plan of which we don't have.
I'm sorry, ma'am, could you state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Susan Atwood. I live in Trace Crossings,
Your street address, please.
5744 Chestnut Trace, 35244. The common thread tonight from Trace Crossing residents goes back to a comprehensive plan of which we don't have. There are 5 main factors in developing a successful residential commercial property that have not been addressed. To create a plan for tomorrow, not yesterday or today, plan for outcome rather than time frames, speak and write human, that's important, design your plan with clarity, realize the catalytic power of a plan. Every plan can be a game changer. These are elementary procedures followed all over the world for developing. Most of our elected officials at some point emphasized a plan for Hoover. We want the Finley Center and athletic fields to be successful. What we don't want is a defunct shopping plaza as in Bluff Park or the Winn-Dixie Shopping Center on 150. We already have a corner on Stadium Trace and Brock's Gap that is now on the 3rd set of principles. 9 years ago, there was a company who had grandiose ideas that property that fell through, or on that property that fell through because the bank said there was no money to be made there. Financing was pulled and replacement retailers were found. They too withdrew because there was no economic advantage for them. Today, we have a dentist office that is surrounded by vacant land. The latest sign there says coming in the spring of 2017. Groundbreaking hasn't even begun. You want to build in the middle of a residential community, a large commercial center that's close to schools and churches. The Finley Center went from athletic center for the good of the community to a convention center for the state. The original vision is long gone. Who are we to trust today? The definition of a city planner is someone who develops plans and programs for the use of land.
Give us a comprehensive plan that is not the rendering of a make-believe village. We have no guarantees of what that area is going to look like and what is going on there or building. Bluff Park is an example of poor or no planning. It has a defunct shopping center and pockets of duplexes in disrepair. The Winn-Dixie Shopping Center is another eyesore in Hoover. And I have a lot of pictures to show you of different property that has not made it. We want Hoover and Trace Crossings to be the best it can be and for the Finley Center to prosper in the long term. We have continued to be given Ross Bridge and the Preserve as examples for this property in question. They couldn't be more different. Both of these developments were planned from the beginning to have residential and commercial built away from schools. Traffic was taken in consideration, yet commercial has never been fully leased at either place. We oppose hotels and townhomes in our community. We'd like to see restrictions placed on the commercial that would enhance our quality of life and yours. Please be the game changer and let's work together for a better Hoover. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Molly McGregor and I live at 5795 Chestnut Trace, formerly of Willow Trace. And Gene, you were probably the only one here who remembers the Walmart fight.
That was interesting.
It was good. It was 1999 when we started that. I was a leader in that fight, and
My daughter had her wreck 10 minutes sooner, I wouldn't have had to vote.
hope nothing happens this go around. Which, the Walmart fight resulted in a well-defined and designed supercenter that could have been a disaster for our neighborhood and our city. But now it graces the commercial corridor of Highway 150 where it belongs. You go by it all the time. Next time you go by, slow down and take a look at it. This was a result of the city planner and council members working with the developers to assure an appropriate design and restrictions in areas like signage, lighting, landscaping, construction, none of which had been proposed initially. The city really took that into consideration and therefore created a good corridor on Highway 150. I was appointed by Barbara McCollum to be the Comprehensive Plan Policy Committee Chairman. We had probably 15 or 18 different people on that committee, and we worked for 2 years to present a comprehensive plan for 2003. I was told that that plan has been sort of what a base of model for how they plan in the future. I can't verify that. It was never approved by the council, and therefore it was never something that they had to follow. And people literally forgot all about it. There were 2 consultants that worked with us on Bob House and Daryl Meyer with KPS. In addition to that, my role in life has been to serve as the project manager for the Crossplex, which is a $50 million facility built in Birmingham, which we tried to get on the property where you are right now trying to build sports fields. That mayor did not get reelected, and it never was pursued. So it went into Birmingham, and they are now enjoying the fruits of that labor. But I became president of the USATF Alabama, which is the governing body for track and field. And we brought the National Junior Olympics cross-country event to the Veterans Park. And I have to tell you that there were over 3,600 athletes and their families, 12,000 people that came. The reason why I point this out to you is that I'm keenly aware of the need for comprehensive land use planning, number one, because of my role in Walmart and the comprehensive plan, and the strategic placement of support facilities for sports complexes and conference centers like the one Hoover's building. In 2004, we purchased a home on Chestnut Ridge inside Trace Crossings, on the lake side of the street, because I was concerned about the fact that a Walmart fight could happen again in my backyard. Well, here we are again. In May of 2016, the board of Chestnut Ridge HOA, of which I'm a member, had been informed by U.S. Steel of their intention to request commercial zoning and potentially put hotels on the site. We called for a Trace Crossings neighborhood meeting and met as a large group at the Met. Many of you guys were there. Many of you were council candidates and now are successful council candidates. Our message was clear. At the time, we felt that this was an outrage and that planning for the Stadium Trace Brock's Gap corridor needed to occur. But in October at the P&Z, U.S. staffers put forth only a zoning request for change from PI to PC. And in response to our objections about potential hotels, basically said that we were liars. That there was no intention of putting hotels there. They just wanted to change the zoning to PC so that they could sell the property. That may still be the case. I believe our fears are being realized, and yet we're trying to help Hoover solve this problem. It was at that time that I urged Jonathan Belcher of Signature Homes that he could stand to lose a lot in this plan to get with all the parties concerned. And he did exactly that. I commend him for getting together with Signature Homes and leading the way, the City of Hoover, U.S. Steel, and the Board of Education, and created a corridor plan that would enhance the area around the Met and the schools. But the commercial plans have always been our #1 concern. The Stadium Trace corridor is the gateway to 1,300 homes, and I apologize for repeating what's been said here today. But despite this, many of us were unconcerned about the sports facilities, and after much discussion and presentations by Mr. Belcher, we also embraced a neighborhood village shopping center along Stadium Trace, but there were no plans for it. We asked for it. We indicated so when we met with Jonathan at our community room to hear about one of the first versions of the plan, and we've had many versions since then. And then later in our homes, he came to some of our homes to share these plans. That plan and this latest one seem to meet the needs of all, but we are concerned with the lack of specifics on the commercial. While many of us have come to realize that to protect the success of the new sports complex, we need to accept the inevitable. But we felt strongly over the past year, as we do now, that restrictions reflecting neighborhood commercial, village center, or even a hotel need to be put in place. I know that the owner is resisting that, resisting all attempts. That's why we've had a number of plans. We felt then, and we do now, that the commercial support systems of hotels and restaurants for a facility such as a sports complex belong on Highway 150. But we understand what the city is trying to do. It doesn't mean it can't be better than proposed. While the city's efforts are not surprising, and I have to commend the mayor on this, current administration is working to make successful what the previous administration slid past all of us in an attempt to revitalize the Hoover Met after building Regents Park downtown. They're clearly trying to meet the needs of this expansion. Our mayor has even said publicly he wants a hotel across from the Met. Yet U.S. Steel has its own needs and has presented to you an amendment to the Trace Crossing PUD that is only conceptual plan. It's only a conceptual plan in Zone 10, not an actual plan, and likely a plan that is a pacification to decision makers in order to meet the village center concept. And they have absolutely no plan on Section 6. In their legal document, Amendment 11 to the Trace Crossings PUD conflicts with your own zoning ordinance. I urge you to follow contemporary land use fundamental principles in any decision you make on this issue. I also urge you to separate out parcels 10 and 6 from the balance of the proposal. I don't want Hoover to be held hostage on the balance of all those changeovers or swap lands to make sure that we have a greenway along the river and that we enhance what's going on with the schools and traffic and to support the Met and the sports center. Don't be held hostage by that, please. Separate out those two areas. Designs for neighborhood commercial centers should follow the definitions for land use categories as outlined not only in Hoover's comprehensive plan 14 years ago, but in the plans of hundreds of municipalities across the nation who are struggling with the same issues as Hoover. I give you a number of cities that you can go to on their websites and see that they are dealing with the same stuff and they're meeting it head on and they're protecting the residents. The 2003 Hoover Comprehensive Plan, while not adopted, embraces land use planning guidelines and fundamental principles. Please continue this pursuit. Right now, it looks like we are attempting to combine neighborhood commercial with community commercial. You can find those definitions on page 13 of the plan, and I'm sure the previous mayor left a bunch of copies of that plan in the closet. The recent election held in August 2016 was a clarion call for all candidates to embrace the fact that comprehensive planning was tops on the list. That includes traffic issues. That Hoover needed to get a handle on the sporadic growth and follow a plan as to where that growth should take place to enhance the city's livability and economic viability. Now the gauntlet's been laid down in front of you guys, and the first major decision is required for one of the finest neighborhoods and school districts in our city. We have hired a new city planner. It's my understanding that an RFP will go out and be extended to land use planners to assist Hoover with a comprehensive plan. The council should be very involved in that process. We may not be able to wait on the new comprehensive plan, because that takes years. So here is the question. Why not begin to set a standard for development that will be a solid example of excellence and kick off your desire for comprehensive planning? Take the bull by the horns and expect exceptionalism. Require more specifics. Require comprehensive design plans for this acreage along Stadium Trace and Brock's Gap, rather than a prettied up conceptual that can easily change. And if the developer does not follow through once zoning is approved, put a time limit on it and revert back to the original zoning. Require specifics on things like lighting type, height, reflective neighborhood design, signage restrictions, not unlike Brentwood, Tennessee, visuals from the street like brick exteriors, roof design, hidden mechanicals, trash dumpsters, elevations, sightlines, and the great berm that why you cannot see the Walmart from 150. Drive down 150. Make sure you check it out. Landscaping requirements, limited square footage, particularly in the commercial space, so avoid the big box in our neighborhood. You control the city's growth, not the Trace Crossings Business Association, which is what is reflected in Amendment 11. They can do whatever they want. Don't allow ambiguity in the face of uncertainty of the success of the sports complex. Why would we move too soon before the success of the new sports center and the Finley Center is realized? Has the candidate for this zoning change or the current administration even proffered a pro forma or feasibility plan on the viability of additional commercial or retail or stadium trace, or even a market study, identifying the need for another hotel to support the activities of this new complex? I've not seen one. Our biggest fear is parcel 6. If a really swell, fancy boutique hotel does not materialize here, what will the candidate for this zoning change put there? He can put anything. Anything at all, without restrictions. It is understood that parcel 6 is being considered for a hotel. However, Chestnut Ridge is not the only neighborhood affected by this. It's hard to get folks that live in a neighborhood community who have kids and jobs to get excited about a zoning change when they think it's just a school zoning change. Park Trace will look out their back bedroom windows and see a hotel. It is understood that parcel 6 is being considered for a hotel. The lack of information is inconsistent with the spirit of the planned unit development, particularly given the extent to which the Trace Crossings PUD has been developed. The conceptual plan for parcel 10, despite our concerns regarding the development of that site, at least provides a reasonable level of information describing the developer's intentions. This begs the question, why isn't there a similar amount of information for parcel 6? What is planned there that requires it to be planned separately for parcel 10 and described so opaquely in the proposed amendment? And finally, I'm sure you're glad, the Finley Center would be a great addition to Hoover. Named for the former Berry High School coach Bob Finley, who served at Hoover's Berry High School from '63 to '94 and was known for his outstanding character. Please follow his lead and the characteristics that are required of Finley Award winners. All be one yourselves. Set high standards for yourself, assume responsibility where appropriate, exhibit quiet leadership, encourage others to do the right thing. Demonstrate the work ethic. Look at the stuff we've given you. Research it. Talk talk more amongst yourselves and make sure you get copies of everything. The fact that John Green did not have a copy of the traffic study is, I don't get it. So educate yourselves and have a genuine concern for your city and its neighborhood, not just economic impact. And show your respect for these citizens who are beseeching you to do the right thing. If you do not, then the Family Center is just a name, not a traditional Hoover honor. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen.
Councilman Gregor. Would you mind emailing me a copy of your notes?
Sure,
I'd
no
like to
problem.
be
And I'm
able
sure
to
all
go
of the
back to
people
it.
that have spoken thus far will be happy to do the same. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Shilpa Kagar. Address is 1384 Scout Trace and Trace Crossings. My parents also live in Chestnut Trace. So I've been peripherally following this for a while as that homeowners association has sort of taken the lead on this fight, for lack of a better word. I am not as prepared as some of my neighbors. I think I used all that preparation up last year during school rezoning. And I'm here to represent, I guess, those of my fellow neighbors who do have kids and jobs, and luckily those same parents are watching mine tonight. First, I'd like to say thank you to those of you in the council that I have spoken to, plus those who have reached out on social media for opinions. One thing I have heard from friends and neighbors, and perhaps maybe why they are not here today, is they feel that all this is a done deal. It's a done deal, the zoning is gonna go through, and they have no influence on it. And that smacks to me of business as usual. That's not what I believe, especially our new city council represents, and so I hope that you will take all the comments that the people before me made in your thoughts when you're thinking about this proposal, and any amendments or changes. I will not go through everything they went through so thoroughly. I will do as Dr. Murphy recommended last year, what they all said. I will give a little bit of perspective as a parent who will have kids in that school. I've got a kindergartner. So we're going to be going to schools in Trace Crossings for the next 18 years, or 12 years. And then, so that's my life, the traffic and the buses. Or not buses, because it will mostly be car traffic. We have a weird aversion to buses down here in the south that me as a northerner, I don't understand. And traffic is a big deal. And I know that, again, I'm not gonna belabor that point, but I will point out that it is all car traffic. With the exception of Park Trace, where they have golf cart trails and some walking trails, and they are able to walk to Trace Crossings, and many of the students will take golf carts to the high school. The rest of us have no real way of getting around the neighborhood without getting in a car. We don't have golf cart trails. Last year, when my family went to 3 of the SEC baseball games, and we live in Scout Creek, we live within 2 miles of the stadium. We got in our cars and had to drive there because there is no other way of doing it. Again, we can't take golf carts, it's a little bit far to walk, and it's not safe. There aren't very many children in Chestnut Trace. The other neighborhoods are further away, but even those that do live there would never walk, even though it's less than a mile, because I wouldn't want my child to be walking across Chestnut Trace, and I don't want my friend who happens to be the crossing guard to be having to stop that traffic. So I think that these are all things that need to be taken into account. In addition is, Ross Bridge and the Preserve are being held up as examples of how this can occur, but they are designed to be more pedestrian and golf cart friendly, where the reliance isn't on vehicular traffic. And right now, that is how Trace Crossings is set up. So just like for you to keep in mind that. And also, schools are important. I know from speaking with Mr. Collins that he is aware of all the developments and all the potential developments, and I appreciate the council and the Board of Education working together. But it makes us as citizens and parents continue to be wary. If I am a homeowner, or I'm a prospective buyer, and I am looking at a home in Black Ridge, and you are telling me that I am going to have to drive past Trace Crossings, go on Brock's Gap, which if any of you have tried to do that at around 7:30, you will see what I mean, with the amount of traffic that's there right now, to take my child to school at South Shades Crest, why would I buy that home? So these are just things to keep in mind. I know reduction of the density in Black Ridge also was a trade-off in terms of property for school. So where, if there's gonna be another school, where would that be built? Where's the infrastructure for it? It appears to me that infrastructure is part of the reason why we're transferring some of these homes to the Trace Crossings PUD. These are all things that I hope that all of you will keep in mind as you're looking at this proposal. Thank you.
Chris Carpenter, 5025 Sandy Cove, Hoover 35244. I don't have anything prepared, and I'm kind of off the beaten path, but this development is coming, whether citizens like it or not. My father lives in a signature home in Mount Laurel, and I know that's kind of a planned community, kind of like what they did at Ross Bridge. One thing Ms. Middlebrooks mentioned was the traffic. And that's really what my major concern is. I have 4 children to go to that will be going to South Shades Crest next year. And it just seems like that you can talk about doing traffic studies and doing that sort of thing, but if the infrastructure is not done before all of this comes, then we're being reactive instead of proactive. Example, try and travel down South Shades Crest Road at 7 o'clock in the morning, or try and get from Ross Bridge up 150. The bridge 150 should have been widened before all that development, and in my opinion, it should have been, that road 150 should have been widened by AlDOT before Ross Bridge was built, because then all those people are coming into Hoover to get access to 459. I also see, 500 new homes at least. I've been to a couple of council meetings, and I've seen the council turn away people who have been, just recently there was a young lady that fought for 11 years to get her house in the city of Hoover. Another young lady a couple weeks ago, her house fit the model of what Hoover homes would look like, in my opinion, very close to Hoover. But she was denied annexation. Yet we're talking about adding 500 homes into the city. I'm worried about. I'm very familiar with overcrowding schools, because both Kurt, Mr. Posey, and I both went to Berry High School, and I think this is just putting a strain already on already overcrowded school. I think Hoover High School is the 2nd largest school in the state. I may not be correct about that, but I mean, how many more students can it physically hold? I heard someone mention something about expansion. I just want the traffic to be taken into account. Build. When I lived in Arlington, Texas years ago, they would build 4-lane roads, and you'd wonder where the heck they were going. They were out in the middle of nowhere. And then they would build the homes after the infrastructure is already there. So I'd like to see that way before all this. I'm not really in favor of a hotel in the middle of a residential area, but I trust what Signature Homes has done, because I've seen it done in other areas. I understand their concept of what they're trying to do. I hope the council listens to what the residents say, what people are trying to voice to you guys as their opinions and concerns. Thank you for your time.
I'll be brief. Last year, we all ran on the Robert Schultz 348 Albemarle Drive, Hoover. Last year, we all ran on a very similar premise of a master plan. Shaw was the first one to bring it up, and we all jumped on the master plan train. We thought it was a great idea. Said, we're not going to develop more, we're not going to expand more until we get on this master plan. Here we are. We're not getting on the master plan train. We're jumping off of it. That's not what at least 4 of you decided on last year. I hope you think back on the master plan train. Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard this evening? Does council have anything after hearing these comments?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rice, Mayor Burkett, Mac, can we hear from you next meeting about how this, you have some time to look this over and see how this fits into your vision going forward. Sure. Thanks, sir.
Anyone else? Hearing none, Mr. Lyda, payment of the bills.
Smith, we had a healthy stack, and I recommend it be paid in full.
And a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Comments and questions from the council. First, I would like, brought it up Thursday, but I would like to say, Mr. Kelly and to other board members, if they still be here, I attended plays at the 2 high schools a week ago, and they were wonderful. Talent that I saw on those stages, I've seen worse talent at the Broadway series downtown. They did extremely well, and I just want to thank them. Anybody else have anything to say? Anybody from the public have anything to say just in general? Off topic?
Thank you very much for those who have responded. I think everyone on the council has responded to the emails, the phone calls, and in fact, called our home. That's appreciated, gentlemen.
Thank you. Hearing nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move for adjournment.
Second.
Second, motion second, all in favor, stand up.